ask you then, what choice would you make in that entirely voluntary system that you're putting forward? What choice would you make for yourself and members of your household?
Well, I make my choices and other members of my household will make theirs. But my choice would be that I would live a perfectly normal life. If the pubs were open now, I would go to a crowded pub with no hesitation. If the theatres were open now, I would go to the theatre with no hesitation. Because this is, for the overwhelming majority of people with no serious underlying conditions, this is a very mild epidemic. In the Cabinet Office papers published with the National Risk Assessment, they have listed all the pandemics since 1918. The mortality of this one is right down the bottom, lower than any of the others. And I would happily take that risk.
Okay. And if you were an asymptomatic, let's imagine you were carrying the virus and you were asymptomatic and you carried on and your daily life and you went to the theatre and you sat next to someone who then did catch the virus from you and die from it. Would you think that that's part of an everyday risk that it was fine for them to have taken?
Well, it's up to them whether they want to take it. I would be running the risk of catching the virus from them if they're asymptomatic, and I'm prepared to take that risk. They don't have to go to the theatre. If they're not prepared to take it, presumably they won't go to the theatre. We are entitled to take risks with our own lives, especially when basically life is only worth living if you are prepared to engage in social activities which inevitably involve risk. That is part of life.
Well said.
Have you observed the rules of the lockdown?
What a stupid question.
Yes.
Completely?
Yes.
Grudgingly, it sounds like.
No.
Well, I disapprove of the lockdown. You can call that grudging if you like, but I comply with the law because I don't wish to place a weapon in the hands of people like you.
I mean, I'm merely interested in whether the what you're putting forward is and how that compares with the way
You're not coming across like that, are you?
Lived your life in these last few weeks. But I wonder if you do think that
Listen,
everyone would make
I'm a very public spokesman for a particular point of view, and I'm not going to undermine my own position by disregarding the law.
Yes. I just wonder whether you think that in an entirely voluntary system, whether people would make sensible decisions. The Prime Minister has placed an emphasis on the good sense of the British people, but
Yes.
do you think we are a society that can make sensible decisions as individuals while protecting public health as a whole as well?
Yes, of course we are. We're grown-ups, we're a sophisticated society, and undoubtedly there will be a few people who do not make sensible decisions. But you cannot imprison the entire population simply because a small minority is not being very sensible with their own safety.
So what would you say to the people who've been at anti-lockdown protests in places like Hyde Park in London?
I think that if they're opposed to the lockdown, I have some sympathy with them. This lockdown is destroying livelihoods on a massive scale.
Definitely.
It is doing enormous
Damage.
And in my view, it has never been a price worth paying.
Well said.
For the not very impressive results
Mhm.
that can be directly attributed to the lockdown.
Well said.